Hello, humans, to all humans and beyond. My name is Ash. I do stuff, record videos and stuff like that. Today, we're going to be covering the first gateway tape. I had mentioned it in previous videos. I was going to start reviewing these gateway tapes that I've been talking about for so long. I've been tracking them down. Again, first I want to say a disclaimer. I don't know how much of this is correct, since I'm just a guy finding stuff on the internet. And if I have to come back later and be like, oh, by the way, I found a few more expansions to the first tape, I do apologize. Like I said, I'm just a guy trying to surf the internet and find what I find. It's not like you exactly have a manual to, CIA top secret files kind of thing. It's not really top secret anymore, but it's like, where do you find the history for this? You know, it's like, let me just type in Google search, the gateway tapes. I mean, you do get a little bit, but I'm trying to make a point. So on the account that I'm not really sure what's true, what's not, where to find accurate information, I believe I have finished the first tape. There should be 5, 6 segments. And if I find more, I'll let you know and I'll go back and listen to them. So I'm downloading them, listening to them as I can. So, let us begin. A little ADHD brain going on here. Let me see if I can ground. Yeah, okay, that's better. So the first tape... ground and then I can't talk. The first tape is about learning to control your own energy, in a sense. It's mainly the orientation / introduction. In fact, I think that's actually what it was called, like tape 1 orientation. Oh, the reason I said that is because I think I found a tape 0. But again, someone could have just posted a YouTube video saying, oh, it's tape 0. Because I think I started listening to it and I realized it was just tape 1. Anyways, whatever. I needed that. So it's about moving and controlling your own energy. I'm going to actually walk through it in steps. So first, it is very important you use headphones. They made it very... In fact, the whole thing is basically based off having headphones. Because the thing actually says, you should be hearing my voice in your right ear. If it is not, turn your headphones around. So they are not joking, but again, this is the 80s and the 90s. So it didn't exactly have earbuds, you just took the headset and flipped it around. Because it was very, very specific. Very Pacific. Anyways. First, I actually had to make notes. First, I want to stress the importance of headphones, which I just did. It uses binaural beats. A frequency made of 2 separate frequencies that are fed together. Well, hold on. 2 different frequencies at different pitches that are fed together. So essentially, an example, your left ear gets dosed with, say, 200 hertz. Your right ear gets dosed with about 210. Your brain actually notices the 10 hertz difference. And ironically, oddly enough, that gap your brain tries to fill, and it actually makes a new tone that doesn't exist. So you hear me in your right ear, and hear me in your right ear, your left ear. But then since there is a variance between them, you start actually hearing. Supposedly, something about that is actually causing the hemisync. The clash of the two together is causing your brain to try to register, and the act of trying to register it is somehow forcing it to hemisync. Sync together. Hemisync is having the 2 hemispheres of your brain syncing together. Again, we really don't think about this unless you're a neurobiologist or neurologist. Anyways, unless you're a neurologist, people don't really think about it. Your brain can act on two separate frequencies. We do know about the left and the right hemisphere. And for basic knowledge, it's like, don't quote me on this because I think it's backwards. I'm not great with this stuff. Pretty sure the right brain has to do with all the logical stuff, and the left brain has to do with, like, artsy stuff. I could probably be backwards about that. It could be the right brain that's actually... Anyways, I'm pretty sure I'm right. So the right brain's logical, the left brain's creative. And then when those two sync up together, they do wondrous things. That's one of the ways to unlock 100% of your brain, kind of thing. First off, it has to work as one full unit. So, theory is that the brain may begin to synchronize some of its activity due to the beat frequency, a process called entrainment. This works based on brainwave activities. Again, I'm not a scientist, I'm not a neurologist. This is just stuff I know and I'm learning. The reason this does work is because the brain already functions on wavelengths in general. I've talked about it in numerous videos, probably like all of two numerous videos, and the different states of the brain and its functions. It's kind of like a video game console almost. Back in the old days, whenever you had like a PS2 and an Xbox 360, the old days, back in the 2000s, you could actually hear those flat, not the fat ones, but the flat PS2s. You could actually hear the disc spin, and you could hear that motor pumping. You may have been able to for the Xbox, but it was more noticeable for the PS2, especially if you left it open. Jerry rigged it to where it worked. You would actually see there's multiple states. The brain typically has about 4. There's the delta state, which is the 0.5 to 4 hertz, which is like deep sleep. Theta, which is 4 to 8 hertz, relaxing like meditation. Alpha, which is 8 to 12, calm and focused. Beta, which is 13 to 30, and alert and thinking. So it's kind of like video game analogies. You know what? Let's do the first analogy first. So an example, the delta is you deep sleep, fully asleep, typically REM sleep, stuff like that. When you're out, just gone. Theta, it's when you're deeply relaxed, right before bed. It's kind of like when you're drifting off and you're starting to just kind of, what? It's kind of that state. You're kind of present, but you're unaware of your surroundings. It's like driving while you're tired. You're here, you're moving, but you may not see that car, rushing at you because you're too tuned off. Alpha is relaxed but awake. It's kind of like daydreaming, sitting by a lake, watching TV, listening to music. You're functional, but not really. It's like your brain is moving, but you're super calm, and it's kind of there. And then the beta is focused, you're talking, you're problem solving, you're active, you're moving, you're driving, like actively present. And the video game analogy was kind of like a PS2 disc. You actually heard it spin up. Like, first it's in the rest state, in the delta state, then you turn on the console and it starts spinning, and it's kind of in the theta state, and as it boots up, and then the game actually starts, and the disc starts spinning faster. And I've actually noticed that in certain scenes, like when it really has to load, or whenever the game would lag on a cutscene, you'd go, and it just starts speeding up twice as hard, because it's putting in all that extra work. It's kind of the same 4 states, similar to that. So it basically uses a combination of that to kind of tune your brain more or less, since your brain already works kind of like a radio. It's not just on one frequency. There is one primary frequency that your brain functions on, but it's also very scattered. because our brains are quite scattered. So the first technique, moving past that, is it actually introduces techniques. Like, specifically so far, it seems to be techniques that are involved with doing the project itself. These are all techniques that you actually basically have to do every intro. As soon as you learn a new technique, it moves you into the next video or the next audio, because it's primarily all just audio. It moves you into the next audio, telling you to already do this. So I've noticed, and that's how I notice it's very sequential or in order, is because I accidentally jumped in on the 4th tape. I didn't know this, but I was listening to the 4th tape and it's talking about all these things. I'm just like, I never heard of none of this. What is your energy conversion box? What is your resonant energy balloon? What is your... So I'm like, well, clearly I'm missing some information. And that's why I kind of started at the beginning. So the first technique it talks about is the energy box. Or, what did they call it? Energy transference box or something like that. It does go into more detail, but like I said, I'm going to go in order from what I heard and listened to. So the first segment, because the one I found was broken into 5 segments, each about 30-40 minutes apiece. The first one is an energy conversion box. I like to think of like a dumpster or a trash can, but it basically tells you a mentally projected box. You sit there and you imagine yourself, however you so choose to do it. I'm just letting you know my preference. It talks about taking all of your you, or what we define as you, and setting it down. It even talks about taking, like, I don't want to miscommunicate this. It sounds like even taking your mass. It almost sounds like peeling away your skin, but it doesn't say that specifically. It's more like, it says all your worries, all your anxieties, anything that's cluttering your mind. And I think at even some point it even says leave behind like your 3D structure or your mass or something like that. Your corporeal being too. Essentially, you strip away. It's like one of those cartoons where you see the person dressed up in a costume and he pulls down the costume and strips away the whole costume in one clean go. Kind of like that. It doesn't word it exactly like that. I didn't write down the words. But it talks about taking all of that and putting it in a bin. Like a cubby. Or it does specifically some sort of bin, because it talks about having a heavy lid. So any fears, any worries, like say, oh no, I need to go out and do this today, or do this today, or you know, you get what I'm saying. It's like, no, let's just take all that and put it on hold. The good metaphor is kind of like a kid with a backpack, you know? You have all these books in my days. I don't know if they still do this, because I know a lot of people are trying to go digital, but in my days, they would load us up with, 4 to 5 textbooks, which are an inch thick. So you're this little kid carrying around a big backpack full of just books. Your worries, what you need to carry, your day-to-day stuff, because it's not just dead weight, it's stuff you have to use in the moment. So you're carrying around this backpack, and then when you get home, you put it down. Even though you know at some point you're going to have to pick it back up. Something just fell between my seat, and I hope it wasn't important. I'll check later. So you put down the backpack and rest. It's kind of what that is. Or another analogy I was thinking of, I hear this one all the time, is imagine yourself as a waiter, and you've got this tray of just stuff. This was actually a study or a practice one of the tarot readers or YouTubers I was watching keeps talking about. You got this tray of stuff. And sometimes in order to just rest, you have to just drop the tray. Just let it all break, let it fall, let it whatever. Just pick it up later. Just sit down. Or set it down cleanly if you want. Just put down the tray and just be like, all that stays over there. Point is, it's a mind-clearing meditation, sort of. So I essentially envision myself putting all my stuff in this recycling bin. And then you shut the lid, and it's there during the duration of the video. I keep saying video, but it's an audio. So it talks about that energy conversion box. You essentially put down anything that's distracting. And it actually does go into detail. It's always the first thing on the tape, too. You always start with, turn to your energy conversion box and open it. Put all your fears, your worries, and your doubts, anything, blah, 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 and then close the heavy lid and keep it there in your energy conversion box. He's very monotone, too. The dude's very monotone. That's actually quite important. I've been kind of using my notes, kind of not. So that's the first step. And like I said, as you go through the audio tracks, it adds on to it. So it's like, all right, that's the first one. Now the second one is the resonant breathing technique. Resonant tuning, which is a breathing technique to help relax and focus. Now, ironically, this is actually similar to a lot of the meditation techniques. It talks about taking a deep breath in through your nose, and it actually, again, builds on detail. So this is one of those things that continuously builds on detail. At first, it just says breathe in your nose and breathe out your mouth like you're blowing out a candle. But then it adds to it and says, now imagine yourself breathing in white, clean energy, pushing it up to your head, and then breathing out of your mouth all the negative, stale energy while doing a hum. So, it's kind of like a chant, like a meditation chant kind of thing. And you do that a couple of different times, probably for about a minute or two. Let me actually read what it says. You take slow, deep breaths, and as you exhale, you hum or make a long vocal sound. The vibration from your humming helps you become more aware of your body. It's kind of like a grounding technique. It really pulls you back into your corpse. The combination can help you enter a meditative state. So again, those are the first two things, and it's always, after it introduces this new technique, it expects you to do it every video. So like I said, when you get to like the fourth one or something, again, the first intro was, okay, do this technique, do this technique, do this technique, do this technique, and it just keeps stacking them. Sometimes it skips them, I have noticed that. Certain ones, like there's a mental state, or a focus 3 is what it's called. It moves into a mental state of focus 3, a preliminary state where the brain and mind becomes more synchronized. Now it says brain and mind, specifically. He actually says the brain and the mind, which kind of hints at part of the whole point of the tape, is it's determining you're not who you think you are, kind of thing. It's opening up your consciousness. The whole point of the tapes is to expand your consciousness. Okay? In fact, one of the affirmations, and I'm going to butcher this, is actually along the lines of, I am more than my corporeal being. I am more than my human being, or something like that. It is because I am more than my human being. And it goes into this whole existential kind of thing. And so the point of the videos is to determine or to expand your consciousness. So while you're doing that, your mind, which is your consciousness, and your brain kind of synchronize in this focus 3. Kind of like we were saying, the meditative states. You hit this spot where it's silent. I don't know, for those who do have it, that internal monologue, just like everyone else, mine was going blah, 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 wouldn't shut up. Thinking about this, thinking about that, thinking about, and so on and so forth. So meditating is extremely helpful for that, because it teaches the brain and the body to rest. Well, that's what this focus 3 is. It describes it as a mental state. And it actually makes you do it before you turn into any other deeper states. And this is just the preliminary. There are multiple focuses. I think it goes up to like focus 21 or something. Now, it doesn't mean there's one level for each. It's not like black belts or anything. You know, you get the green belt and you get the white belt and you... I actually don't know too much about it as to why it jumps from 3 to 10, but it jumps to 10. So then the next one, and like I said, there's more. It's like focus 3, 10, 12, 15, 20, something like that. I'm not quite there yet. But it does jump to the next one, which is focus 10. Now this one, I think this is why it skips certain ones, is because certain focuses are for certain tasks. Focus 3, like I said, I kind of feel like is more of that theta state. You're somewhat alert, somewhat not. You're aware, but you're not. Just basically just shut up the mind chatter. But then focus 10, which is one of the core states that it uses a lot, it's described as mind awake, body asleep. Now, I didn't look up what the Monroe system is. If you know what the Monroe system is, you're a lot smarter than me. You've got one leg up. But the Monroe system, the goal isn't to literally fall asleep. Instead, your body becomes so deeply relaxed, it feels heavy and distant or numb, almost absent from awareness, while your mind remains clear and conscious. It's essentially a way to turn off your body. I described it as... Wow, I just had the word and then it disappeared out of my brain. Sleep paralysis. It's like sleep paralysis. In fact, one of those times I listened to the 4th or 5th video, that's what it felt like. My body went dead. I'm just like, this is weird. I can't move. Okay. That was an altered state of consciousness. I think it was actually like somewhere up in the 10 and the 12s. But the whole point, described as a state where physical awareness is greatly reduced, allowing attention to shift inwards. You get grounded, which is good. You're present, you're here. But then you become very aware of your body. Like, I love being grounded because I can feel my socks. I know it sounds really weird, but it's like you're not aware of it. Whenever you're walking around just doing your thing, you're normally up in your head, thinking about stuff, or you're projecting outwards, focusing on the outside world. So when you're present, it's like, yo, I can feel my feet all the time. I am consciously aware of more of my body than I normally am. So it's like, when I step, I can feel the softness. It's like being hypersensitive. Being grounded is like being hypersensitive. So then at this state, we're actually separating that and trying to unground you. Mainly to take your focus off everything. You do the focus 3 to get your mind off of everything. Then you do the focus 10 to actually physically turn off, in a sense, your body. It still functions, it still breathes. It's just you're turning off the awareness that you have a body. It's kind of... I hope I'm making sense. But it leads into something else, and I'll tell you in a second. I know I'm kind of jumping back and forth, but like I said, this is exactly how the layout of the audios were. So then beyond that point, these audios actually jump around a lot too, so it's not my fault. It's not my fault. So another technique is the resonant energy balloon, as I was talking about for a quick second. So we're going back to the resonant tuning breathing technique. When it actually speaks about absorbing the energy, the breath, and storing the energy in your head, it does specifically say, breathe in the energy into your head. Into your head. Well, then from there, it talks about the resonant energy balloon, which is essentially, and if you know, it projects a toroidal field. Am I even saying that right? toroidal. Basically, it's the donut, the torus shape, where it projects out the top, circles around you, and then enters back into your feet. I don't know if you've seen the images before. It's a thing. But it basically talks about absorbing the energy in your head and projecting it outwards. Kind of like I said, it even describes pushing it out of your head into an energy balloon that feeds back into your feet. Your own magnetic field. Just like a magnet. It's just like a magnet. You see a picture of the magnet, and it's always lines that, circle around the magnet. It's your own magnetic field. Now, we naturally have one. Okay, we naturally produce one. But this one talks about projecting one specifically. I don't know if it's like a fusion into our aura or our magnetic field, or it's just kind of tuning ours. I'm just going off what I hear. But it talks about projecting a barrier, in sense. However, it's not like an absolute defense. It's mainly just to keep out the negative energies. Another technique, a barrier around yourself. It keeps your energy safe from others and helps prevent you from absorbing others. So it's actually something I've been really working on. A lot of energy vampires, a lot of people trying to take your energy. We've talked about spirits, Agorius. I don't know how to pronounce any of the names of the entities. Or Tempa. I'm probably butchering these so bad. These energies that try to take your energy, they're parasitic. Or people who do the same. Because when you leave your body, well, we're not even going to get into that, but ghosty goos can attach. Negative energies can attach to you, especially when you're sleeping. So essentially you're projecting this field outward that keeps your energy in, so it stops them from taking it, but it also projects a barrier and prevents you from absorbing their energy, their negative energies. Why? Well, I can't really put it into details. I just use an example. Say I'm having a good day, and somebody comes in and is nasty to me. I take it personally, and I take their energy. I pick up their bad mood, and then it affects me, and for the rest of the day I'll have a bad mood. That's absorbing someone's energy. I could have been in a perfectly fine day, and it's somebody pushed their energy up onto me, kind of thing. It's not like, oh, I had a bad day because something I didn't want to happen happened. No, it's someone specifically came in with an attitude, threw it at you, and then you, from the rest of that day, absorbed it and was just kind of nasty yourself. Well, that energy barrier helps you deflect that. So again, it's about basically protecting yourself and controlling your own energy, while at the same time is finally in the final number 5, it begins talking about astral projection. So I know I've talked about it, and this is one of those things I am kind of talking out my ass. Alright, Spirit, I trust that I'm getting good information. Please don't let me lead them astray. So it's like, this is probably a really bad analogy. I'm trying to think of a good analogy. It's like loaning somebody your socks. How about that? So you've got your human, which could be a sock, a container. And then you take your foot out of the sock, and the sock becomes this limp little piece of clothing. Just a skin, more or less. And now if, say for instance, your partner decides to come over and pick up your dirty sock, I don't know why they do this, it's just an analogy. They come and pick up your dirty sock and slip them on. Well, it's still the same sock, but it's somebody else's foot in the sock, if that makes sense. Now, I'm not saying you get demon possessed every time you leave your body, But when you leave your body, there are things that attach, things that latch on from other dimensions. It's just... the way I like to present it is, while your spirit, your essence, is in your quote-unquote human sock, it produces an energy field, like we said, that produces magnetism. But if your human isn't activated, if the sock is not full, it's not producing anything, it's not protecting itself. So a lot of these measures or these techniques, like I said, it actually makes you do every single one of them before you enter this mindscape. And I don't have exact reasons why. It's just, I mean, it's like you wouldn't go to a dance dirty. You know, say you just played football, you got roughed up, your suit's dirty, your clothes is gross, you're sweaty and stinky. You're not going to want to show up at the school dance, you know, like that. You want to take a bath, you want to clean yourself, and get yourself in a better state before you go to the next activity. So in order to keep your energy clean, to keep yourself clean, and make the most out of this activity, you do these procedures to kind of clean yourself up. So the energy bubble, all of that stuff, because while you astral project, well, there's a lot of weird stuff that can go on. I don't have a full list, but it gets pretty weird. So you do all these things, and then it teaches you to astral project. That's the end of the first tape, literally. About 3 hours summed up into a half an hour. Primarily... oh, there's actually one more thing I forgot to tell you about. So like I said, it kind of jumps back to the astral projection. When you do that, that's when you really turn off your body. You kind of you disassociate almost. You put up your energy field, you dump down all that negative energy into a tub for a minute, and then it helps you astral project, and you start doing visualizations and other things like that. And then the final, I didn't even realize I forgot about this one. Yeah, honestly, I don't remember the order. I think I just fucked up my notes, which is okay. But I think the astral projection was last. Anyways, the other technique it teaches you is, now we go back to the energy conversion box. And I thought that was funny, because they kept calling it an energy conversion box when all you were doing was just dumping your load. Sounds gross, I know. You were just dumping like all your negative energy into that box. Well, as of later in the same tape, it actually talks about using it to alchemize the energy. So it really is a energy conversion box. You'd essentially, I'd imagine it's kind of like a treasure chest. Whenever I used to go to the dentist, for being a good boy or whatever, you know, you get to open up the chest and take out one of the random toys in there. It's kind of like that, but for sadness. I'm sorry, I can't help but to laugh. Sadness and fear. You essentially turn back around, open up the bin, and you let one of the fears surface. Since you're in a meditative state, anything can bubble up to the surface. Say, a fear of not being good enough. It bubbles up. And in that mental space, it allows you to be more open and receptive to whatever bubbles up. It's essentially shadow work. So you sit there and you let the emotions bubble up, and then you let whatever memories, whatever associated to those emotions bubble up. And then if typically there are, feelings underneath that bubbles up. So it's basically a long process of shadow work. Meditating and shadow work. Because then it talks about letting the fears bubble up, letting the emotions bubble up, letting the memories bubble up, and then seeing if there's an emotion underneath it. Kind of like anger. Anger is a mask emotion in my mind. Whenever I get angry, it's because of something underneath. Like, say I get angry, I get cut off or something. Well, I'm initially angry that, someone did that to me. However, the true fear underneath it is because I was scared he was going to hit me and I was going to lose my car or something like that. There's typically normally emotions underneath emotions. Or a root, more or less, a root emotion. So the energy conversion box becomes a tool to actually get down to your root emotions. It's crazy. It's all kinds of crazy. And that's just the first tape. So I've been working on collecting the other tapes, getting them together, and listening to them as I can. Jeez. I'm doing my best. A lot of them are things you want to do while you're not moving. Like, it's go sit down, set aside half an hour to do these kind of things, and relax. Like I said, your body is a big portion of it. Essentially, you're sitting there meditating and relaxing. I can't always do that. I struggle a bit because it's 90 fucking degrees outside and, you know, I sleep in my car, so. But unfortunately, these tapes are active. Like, it requires you to sit down and follow along and do these steps. So essentially what I'm doing is I'm trying to do them while I'm also reviewing them. To be honest, some of them I just kind of sit there and listen to it. I didn't try the astral projection. Not yet. I only do that when I sleep. That's basically the gist of the first tape. And if that's all within the first tape, again, 3 hours worth of it, I actually can't wait to see what the next few tapes have. Because then they just get crazier and weirder, and essentially, like I said, I feel like the point of the tapes was to create God. Because if we get to the 8th tape, if somebody actually moves into the 8th tape, I legit believe that's the point when you can start warping reality. More than we already do. We tap into it a little bit here and there, whether we would know it or not. But as of that point, you've basically integrated into the world itself. So we'll see. We'll see how I change. I'm actually quite curious to see how I change by doing these tapes. Or what it does to me. Tell you, I've already got a bunch of weird shit going on in my life. Speaking of which, if you made it this far in the video, thank you. Random story time. I can't escape hauntings. Like I said, at some point I just kind of accepted it. At some point I tried to seek out hauntings, and well, of course I haunted myself a lot. But then I discovered, like I said, it just... I can't get away from the paranormal. The supernatural. I'm working at a new job, as I've stated in previous videos. I work at a Dairy Queen. I've only been there about 2 months. And, there was one day, I thought it was just a hijinks, but this cup on the desk in front of me just went... It's like, damn it, this place better not be haunted. I swear. Fucking haunted bullshit. Well, I was talking to my manager one day and I overheard a conversation where someone said, oh, we can't make this place even more haunted. I go, what do you mean more fucking haunted? So I asked my manager, I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, well, he used to be kind of mean, but now he's kind of chill. There's a construction worker. Sometimes you just throw shit, or you just see a construction worker out of the corner of your eye. It's like, can I work somewhere without it being fucking haunted? Fuck. I didn't even tell you about all the stories. Like, there's one time I worked at a McDonald's, and it was right next to a preschool. Kind of like how urban legends are. There was a legend or a story where the preschool burned or burnt down at one point, and some of the kids died. Or just some kids were attracted to it because it was McDonald's with a big play place. And manager would be like, nah, dude, you hear kids playing up in the pipes and stuff, playing in the play place at like 2 o'clock in the morning. So everyone goes, oh, ha ha ha, funny. well, I would work the night shift. And, the more and more I was there, the more weird shit happened. Like one day, for those who worked fast food, you understand, the buns go on like this cart, this tray on a cart. And you have this whole just cart full of trays. And again, it was this tray that was not even pushed out. It was completely on the cart. All of a sudden, this tray just gets pulled out and flipped upside down. And I'm the only one who sees it. I'm just like, alright, haha, funny. Destroying my buns. You're hilarious. So stuff like that would happen. Well, one night, I'm out cleaning the play place, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I hear fucking kids. I'm just like, yeah, I'm not dealing with that. I'll clean up the place, but you know what, kids, you guys have fun. Just, you go have fun. I'm not playing. I would never enter the jungle gym. So, I can't escape it. I just have to accept it. Weird and paranormal shit happens to me all the fucking time. I just gotta embrace it. And that's why I'm doing these things, is learning to protect myself. Since I'm gonna be a part of it. I've always been a part of it. Yeah. Adam's Weird Mysteries. That's based off of a TV show called Martin's Weird Mysteries. Archie Comics. Alright, guys, I'm gonna pop my neck and go take a shower. I'll get to the next tape when I get a second. I gotta put it on my phone. Like I said, they're all typically 5 segments or more, so it's a lot to review. I do like listening to them to ground me, though. It's really nice. Anyways, you all have a great rest of your day.